So Cat Hobbs, Oliver Dowden was actually incredibly positive about the BBC. He said he's not trying to whack it. They're not trying to get rid of your Strictly Come Dancing or your match of the day or anything like that. But he makes a very important point there in my view, which is that the BBC has become dominated by the London left-wing liberal media elite. It missed Brexit. It missed the massive political change that happened at the last election, and it needs reform. How do you respond?
Well, I think the BBC has given a lot of a platform to people like Nigel Farage. But let's look at actually what Dominic Cummings, who I think is the real master behind these statements, he's the one who's pulling the strings in Downing Street. And what he's said is he wants to see the end of the BBC. He thinks it's the mortal enemy of the Tory party. So for the sake of his party, he's trying to shift the whole media landscape in a right-wing direction. That's his agenda. And I think that's very much the agenda of Rupert Murdoch as well, because actually...
Do you accept, Kat, that the BBC News Service is fundamentally a left-wing news organisation?
Not at all. I don't think that's correct at all.
Can I ask you then why, Kat? Any time a freedom of information request is done on the BBC's newspaper purchases, more than any other, that left-wing rag, The Guardian, is up there. They buy hundreds and hundreds of copies of The Guardian, which, by the way, no members of the general public buy. It sells less than 100,000 copies now, and they buy hardly any copies of The Sun, not that many copies of The Times. What's your explanation to that?
We have 3 billionaires who own 80% of the media in this country.
No. But we're not talking about that. The BBC is publicly funded. This station, Kat, if you want to go there, we'll go there. This station is privately funded. My newspaper, The Sun, which I'm the executive editor of, is privately funded. We have over 1 million people who choose to buy us every day, and we have millions that go online. We can take whatever political point of view we want. And on this show, I'm going to be opinionated, okay? You accept that.
Absolutely.
I have a right to do that.
You do.
The BBC
and that's
is
why
paid
the BBC
for by
is different.
taxpayers.
That's
so
right.
Rather than you trying to actually defend BBC bias, you immediately turn to the commercial sector. Talk to me about the BBC. Why did the BBC News Service buy so many more copies of The Guardian than any other newspaper if they're not a left-wing organisation?
So the BBC is about education, right? So it's fantastic that we have commercial media, that we have opportunities for freedom of media in this country. That's great. But the BBC has a particular kind of job to do. It's like the NHS, right? It's the NHS of the media. The BBC sets standards, it has impartiality. It doesn't always get it right, absolutely, but it tries to be balanced. It tries to tell both sides of the story. And the British public are intelligent enough to make up their mind. That's what the BBC is trying to do, because education doesn't end at 18, it carries on. And the BBC is doing innovative programming, investigation, to try and make sure that people have access to the shared culture of this country and to information.
There's lots of specific examples, because, OK, you can say to me, absolutely, you're a stooge for the Murdoch media. Fine, you can say that to me if you want. But what about John Humphreys, the long-term presenter of the Today programme,
well, I'm not a fan
who says
of him.
the BBC is biased? What about Robert Peston, the former economics editor of the BBC, who says the bosses made me pull a report so as not to offend the SNP?
Dan, you're picking your examples, and that's fine. But what I would say, what I would say, and you've talked about diversity, I think that's really important. So one of the things we're doing in this campaign is we're going to have a people's consultation, because we've got the Cummings consultation. That's a quick-fire, reckless consultation that's about attacking the BBC. We want the people's consultation to try and make the BBC more accountable to the people of this country, because people are frustrated with the BBC, right? And
so
we pay for the BBC.
That the BBC
we should own the BBC.
Was biased over Brexit?
No, I wouldn't. But what I would say is that actually it's not just up to me, right? It's up to the citizens of this country, and that's why we need more of a voice for citizens in the BBC.
What did you make of what Julian Fellowes had to say? Because this is not a guy who wades that often into political issues or chooses to attack the media organisations, but he says, I don't really think you can take public money and have no obligation to more than half the population at all.
I think the BBC had a duty to look at the facts around Brexit. The supposed fact about money that would be saved, that would go to the NHS, that wasn't a fact, that was a lie. The BBC is trying to balance lots of different interest groups. It doesn't always get it right. We need to have more of a voice for citizens. But no, I would not accept that. I think the BBC has a duty on things like Brexit, on things like climate crisis, on things like migration, to try and look at the evidence base and give us the best information it can. That's what people expect of it.
But aren't you just being tone deaf here, Kat? Because you want to save the BBC, right? And you've got the culture secretary saying, we don't want to dismantle the BBC. But here I am saying to you, Brexiteers up and down this country feel like the BBC did not represent them fairly. And you refuse to accept it.
And what I would say
is
left-wing people up and down this country feel that the BBC let them down in this election. You know, Laura Kuenssberg's coverage where she talked about the majority that Boris Johnson so deserved, she just slipped that in there. That is absolutely unacceptable. The BBC needs to be held to account, but it needs to be held to account by the people who own it, by us, the public, and it needs to have adequate funding to do a really good job. That's really, really important for this country.
Oh my goodness, it gets more funding than anything else, any other type of broadcaster in the world.
No, it doesn't. It's had funding cuts of 30% since 2010. And the government's trying to attack it more, trying to take away its funding base with no alternative in place. What that's going to mean is poor people having, you know, bailiffs in their communities knocking on their doors with £500 fines is not a solution, and it's not fair. And I think your listeners, you know, when they think about programmes like Match of the Day, EastEnders, Fleabag, you know, CBeebies, all of these programmes that people really value.
Then make it a subscription service.
They have to be paid for.
Make it a subscription service and let people make the choice.
You know,
why
as well as
should
I do,
I be forced to pay a poll tax? Well, it works for Netflix.
Because that's about a rich people's service. That's like saying, you know, if you want to be able to visit a doctor, then you have to be rich, right? So that you can pay for it. The whole point of this...
Newsflash, Netflix costs a heck of a lot less than the BBC.
Netflix is in debt because it's been building up, trying to get a monopoly, right? The BBC has a much lower budget than Netflix, and it does a huge amount. It offers a huge amount of value.
What's the licence fee now? Is it £174?
Nine out of 10 of us,
something like that?
9 out of 10 of us access BBC content every single week. And what they've done in studies is when they've taken the BBC from people who are actually feel that they're not getting much value from the BBC, right? Those people who feel like, oh, I don't know what I'm paying for. What they actually find is that 2/3 of those people, after about 9 days, say, please give me the BBC back. I didn't realise, you know, the local radio coverage, you know, the news coverage that whatever you may think, actually you want to sit down at night and see what's being said.
Okay, Kat, I want to just ask you one more thing. It's a little bit of breaking news. Dorothy Byrne, she was the head of Channel 4 News and Current Affairs. She is the woman who got up on a stage at a major TV speech and called our Prime Minister a racist, even though she's meant to run a non-biased news organisation, has just stepped down from Channel 4 over the past hour. Now, Channel 4 News, in my opinion, is a very biased left-wing service. You were on the show last week, and you said that it's not. You said that Channel 4 is not biased or left-wing. And so I gave you a little challenge to find me one right-wing personality or reporter or person that Channel 4 News or Channel 4 overall put on their channel.
And what I said to you, Dan, is that I don't think that Channel 4 is biased, because I think, you know, news reporters like Jon Snow are in the bang middle of the centre trying to do a good job.
What?
Absolutely.
Oh my goodness.
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm in a parallel universe. He said
Channel
F the
4.
Tories. He said F the Tories.
Channel 4
How
is
is that non-biased?
about diverse content. They've done
Imagine
great
if I
innovative
said F
programming.
the Labour Party.
Channel 4 is a national treasure, and I think, you know, what we're talking about here is trying to shift.
Sorry. You say Jon Snow is a down the line centrist.
I think he's bang in the middle. I think he's bang in the middle.
He went to Glastonbury and joined a protest saying F the Tories.
I mean, I think he's bang in the middle, and I think that, you know, there are all kinds of things that the Conservatives are doing in this country that many people are not happy with.
Okay, so final chance. Name me someone that represents the right on Channel 4 or Channel 4 News.
I'm not gonna do that, Dan.
You know why? Because they're not there.
I think that's
they're not there. It's a channel just full of left-wingers that is owned by us.
You're quite an extreme right-winger. You know, you're calling for a very successful organisation that is self-funded, that has done all kinds of innovative programming. You're calling, I know you called in The Sun for it to be privatised. You're pushing the boundaries to see where you can get to, and that's your prerogative.
Should be privatised.
But I think you're wrong, and I think many people would agree with me.
Well, I just say, just name one right-wing person.
I don't think that's...
Because it's a channel owned by the government that only represents one point of view.
No, it's not.
Why can you not just name me one right-wing person on that channel?
This is about a public service remit, right? It's a public service remit to have diverse
does that
programming,
mean that
innovative
right-wing
programming.
people should be banned?
Of course not.
Then why are there none on there?
I mean, I talked to you about Nigel Farage and the kind of platform he's been getting on the BBC. You know, do you think he's right-wing, or do you think he's in the centre?
I think he's a Brexiteer, absolutely, and of course he's a right-wing politician. I think
And
he
he gets
deserves
a
to have a platform.
big audience on
Just
the
like,
BBC,
by the
a
way,
massive
just like, by the
audience.
way, I think Caroline Lucas deserves a platform too, and I
Absolutely.
give both of them a platform
And-
on this show.
and
you know
both
what,
of
Kat?
them get a
On
platform
this
on the
show,
BBC.
we're right smack bang down the middle. We had Ash Sarkar on just before
Well, you like
and we will
conflict,
have
right?
Nigel
And that's
Farage on
great.
too.
And
no,
it's entertaining
I don't.
and it drives
I want a
clicks.
whole point of views. I want a whole range of point of views.
And that's
Kat.
great. And that's great.
But
you know,
I will
it's
give
a
you my
different
opinion.
kind of media.
I will give you my opinion.
That's great.
And I'm allowed to.
You're very much allowed to,
But
and
I
I support
don't
that.
want opinion on the BBC, and I don't want us to keep funding the left-wing news organisations in Channel 4. But this is a fascinating debate, Kat. We'll keep on having it. The campaign sounds very, very fascinating. And of course, you are the director of We Own It, but the campaign is called Save the BBC.
It's
Is that right?
our BBC.